Okay, Chair, we are live on YouTube.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, members of the public, members of the Planning Commission and staff. Welcome to City of Lafayette Planning Commission August 1st meeting. We can start with a roll call. So Commissioner Farsan.
Present. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Commissioner Heising.
Present.
Commissioner Mason. I think you're just muted now. If you could just unmute and say that you're here. We can see you, but.
Present.
Perfect, thanks. And I'm Chair Radnich. I'm here. We do have 2 excused absences tonight. Commissioner Sturm is absent and Vice Chair Lavange is absent. So we have 4 present tonight. Can I get a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. A motion by Commissioner Farsan, second by Commissioner Heising. We'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Farsan.
Aye.
Commissioner Heising.
Aye.
Commissioner Mason.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Commissioner Radnich. Public comment. So this is an opportunity if members of the public would like to provide comments on anything that is actually not on tonight's agenda, but something that is within the purview of the Planning Commission. Now would be the time. So I'll look to Renata to see if we have any hands raised.
If you would like to make a comment for items not on the agenda, please use the raise hand function at the bottom of the screen. There are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. So then we'll move to item 5, consent calendar. We actually don't have any items on the consent calendar for tonight. So we can move to item 6, continued public hearings. We have 2. So first we'll start with item 6A, HDP 32-21, Todd Delamar for the R20 zoning. This is a request for hillside development permit for siding and massing, design review approval, grading permit, tree permit, and I will turn it over to staff, to Joshua. Welcome, Joshua, for a presentation.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Radnich, and good evening, commissioners. Let me quickly pull up my presentation here. Share screen. Can everyone see the title page? Excellent. Alrighty, so tonight, as Chair Radnich mentioned, this is a hearing for HDP 32-21, the Delamar residence. This is a phase 1 siting and massing determination. So just to reiterate for members of the public who may not have been at the previous hearings, phase 1 is for the siting location of the proposed residence on the property, and then the massing, which is essentially the primary blocks through which the house will be created. So phase 2 will handle design details such as aesthetics, colors and materials, windows, landscaping, those aspects. The core components of phase 1 are siding and massing. And this was previously heard by the Planning Commission on May 16th. And the commissioners were receptive to some changes to the siding and massing. There were multiple requests for clarifications, and revisions of certain components. There were also multiple public comments that had concerns about the siding and massing relative to the positioning of it being askew from the center of the parcel and the rotation of the orientation of the home. So there are also main comments concerning clarification on a proposed hammerhead and fire access relative to what the fire district was willing to approve and work within public right-of-way, whether it involved work on other parcels. The commission wanted that to be rectified and hashed out before even coming back. There was also a desire to see alternative siting, especially relative to the comments of it being not in the center of the parcel, as well as a request to see the full arborist report. So moving right along to the first section here, the applicant went and moved the house toward the center of the parcel. As you can see, this is an excerpt from the context map. The closest neighbor at 4146 Los Erebus, the home is now 73 feet from the nearest corner. And even though there's a compensation of moving it closer to other properties, it's still over 100 feet from the nearest corner of each of the nearest adjacent properties. Additionally, the applicant has rotated the orientation of the home approximately 22 degrees. So from being askew toward the southeast toward 4141, 4146 Los Erebus, it is now parallel to Los Erebus Drive, which was a core concern of neighbors in previous meetings. And the orientation has also beneficially impacted any potential damage or construction disturbance of some existing trees, especially along the closest property boundary, which will help provide some screening. And the decreased driveway in relation to the moved home has decreased the overall impervious surface coverage by about 250 square feet. Moving right along, in turn, the adjustment of the siding and as well as the massing, they have lowered the elevation of the home a few feet. So it may have the same height, but it is lower topographically on the parcel. And the massing still steps with the topography, which is one of the guidelines within our residential design guidelines. In addition to reflecting the moved siding and orientation, the applicant has provided a plethora of new and updated 3D graphics showing the subsequent impact and the mitigation of the massing relative to the public right-of-way in Los Erebus and adjacent properties with it stepping. There are on the renderings certain landscaping elements that may or may not be impacted by the construction. In turn, the applicant has submitted a full arborist report, which I'll talk about in the next slide. That arborist report does have recommendations concerning construction. Also, landscaping in terms of proposed landscaping for screening and visual and privacy impact mitigation is a phase 2 element, but the adjustment of the home will help preserve certain existing trees that do play a valuable role in the screening of the new home relative to adjacent properties. And as I mentioned, the applicant did submit a full arborist report prepared by an ISA certified arborist, Todd McNeil. He provided within the full report descriptions of multiple specific specimens that should be preserved and maintained for screening purposes, as well as a full inventory report of trees within the construction area. The report also has recommendations for before, during, and after construction to do their best to promote the vitality of the trees and to mitigate the impacts of construction on the existing trees. Additionally, as I mentioned, the impacts of the construction, specifically the mitigation trees that are required, that is a component of the phase 2 application. But for phase one, we still look at impacts on landscape relative to siding and massing, and the full arborist report reflects what we're evaluating in phase one. And concerning the hammer down fire access, this was a core component of the previous hearing. The applicant clarified in the plans removing any improvements proposed on other properties. There were some discrepancies whether there were improvements proposed on other private property. That has been scraped. The new proposed hammerhead will be installed on Mr. Delamar's property as well as within the public right-of-way. And this was sent to the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District for review, and Assistant Chief Chris Bachman, who you have seen before in hearings, reached out to me as the project planner, indicating that in this iteration, the fire district does support the proposed facilities in terms of ingress, egress, and EVA, emergency vehicular access. I have included the email in the staff report, which is the full correspondence of what Assistant Chief Bachman sent. The Fire Protection District reviewed with their legal counsel and determined that if the improvements are happening within the 40-foot road easement and that area can be used for emergency vehicle access, then their legal department believes that this would comply. Reflecting on Assistant Chief Bachman's comments, the applicant submitted a revised and additional title report that does indicate the easement and that it is available for access and ingress and egress of vehicles. So that we can move on to public comment. Staff did receive 3 public comments before the publication of the staff report. This is referring to the previous siding and massing that was presented on May 16th. In the meantime, and there were criticisms about that siding and massing. There was also criticism about just the pace of the hearings. They were looking at the calendar and commented on that. We did receive 2 comments after the publication of the staff report. One of them indicated support for the revised siding, especially how it was centered and shifted to be oriented toward Los Erebus. And one comment was opposed to the hammerhead that the applicant is proposing. And based on the revisions presented and submitted, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the proposed project, conduct public hearing, and approve the resolution 22-12, finding this project exempt from CEQA and approving it subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. Are there any clarifying questions that commissioners would like to ask of staff before we hear the applicant's presentation? I see Commissioner Mason. Go ahead.
Thank you. Didn't catch it until Joshua's presentation. And my wife got home, and I don't know if this is a conflict, but I will toss it out. But my wife's office is the counsel for Con Fire that issued that interpretation. And I realized that if I have to conflict out, we don't have a quorum. So I wanted to raise the issue, and whatever staff and chair say is fine with me. I wasn't aware of it. There's no financial ties in there, but it is a tie on what in previous meetings has been a contentious issue.
Excuse me, I appreciate that. I guess I will look to staff to see, Renata, the best steps forward on this item.
I'll check in with our colleague on whether this is considered a conflict, but we can continue the discussion and I'll chime back in with more information.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Commissioner Mason. Commissioner Heising?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. My questions regarding tree mitigation. I appreciate the shifting of the home and the rotation. I think that's an improvement to the previous siding and massing. And I do like how the rotation has pulled the corner of the house away from that large tree, the 30-inch diameter oak, this uphill of the foundation. But my question is, does the mitigation ratio vary, or is there a sliding scale based on the size of the tree that's being removed? And I'm not sure about that question, so I just wanted to ask, because I have concerns about, I mean, even though the arborist report says we made these, basically it says we reserve the right. We're not guaranteeing that these trees aren't going to be impacted once the foundation is excavated to put the forms in, to pour the concrete. So I guess my question is, if one of these larger trees, whether it be the larger one uphill or the one that's those ones that are acting as screening trees for the neighbors, if they do get removed, does the mitigation go up depending on how large they are?
Commissioner Heising, you are correct. The mitigation required would increase if there is a tree that is damaged or killed during the period of construction. It would follow the mitigation calculation, which is 2 15-gallon trees per 6 inches in diameter, measured at DBH for tree removed. So,
Okay.
yeah, if it's a 36-inch tree that is damaged and has to be taken out, that would be put into the mitigation for the project.
Okay. Appreciate that. That's just wanted to check on that in case any of these larger trees get removed. And then I'm assuming in phase 2, the staff and the city's arborists would help with the placement of those, because I wouldn't want trees that are natural trees that are there providing natural screening to be placed somewhere else on the lot. They should go back where the mitigation would be most impactful as far as screening for neighbors' view of this home.
Yeah, as a component of the phase 2 application packet is a landscaping plan that is reviewed by staff and can be referred out to the consulting arborist for review, input, and design review commissioners can also input comments and possibly even conditions concerning the proposed landscaping.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. That's all the questions I had, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? No. Okay, with that, I'd like to please welcome the applicants team. I see Jill is on. Hi, Donna. Welcome.
Hi.
So I'll turn over to the applicants team. You have 10 minutes for a presentation. Thank you.
Okay, share my screen here. Okay. Let's see. Good evening. Thank you, commissioners. Jill McGovern and I are available today. And thank you, Joshua, for your overview on the important changes that we've made. This is more of a graphic kind of visual to show how significantly we did rotate the house. The red dashed line you see here is the previous location and rotation of the house, and the solid blue lines here show the new positioning of the house, effectively moving the house further away from 4146, and it stayed roughly the same distance from 4132. We did move the house closer to the front property line, which Joshua mentioned did effectively drop the overall ridge by about 3 feet. And on the elevations, we are showing now where the old grade line was versus the new grade line. You can see this is a very good example of how more of the house is now buried into the hillside. The profile is now effectively a little bit lower, a little bit more streamlined. From the front, you are seeing a lot less of the front elevation here as well from this perspective. And then Joshua did touch on the perspective views. These give you a good idea of before and after, and how the rotation and movement did affect the views from the various camera angles that we've provided here. But I will also say that the grading and drainage, the placement of the, I just wanted to mention, Joshua talked a lot about the right-of-way here. So there is no proposed construction or change of pavement on anybody else's property or beyond Todd Delamar's property line. So this is theoretical. The other half of the hammerhead, it is just graphical to show how the fire engines would come in and turn around. All of the construction proposed would be on Todd Delamar's property. Jill, did you have anything to add? Sean.
Sorry. No, I think you did a nice job with that. So we've made some significant changes, and I think that we've addressed all the concerns of the neighbors. We've tried to keep things in focus with the trees, the views, impact from the neighbors, and by bringing it closer to Los Erebus and dropping the finished floor elevation, we're tucked into the hill a little bit more. So we're here for your comments.
Thank you. I will open it to planning commissioners if there's any questions you'd like to ask of the applicant's team. Okay, seeing none. Renata, we can please open it for public comment.
If you would like to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand function to, sorry, I'm trying to stop the share. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please use the raise hand function and we will promote you to a panelist. I do not see any hands raised. Oh, there is one hand raised. I will promote Dan.
Welcome.
Hi, Dan. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Welcome, Dan. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Hey, I live at 4146 Los Erebus, and one of the things I wanted to say to the applicant, thank you for listening to the Planning Commission before. We appreciate the rotation of the house away from 4146 and also the lowering of it. And that does help. But again, what ends up happening when we rotate it is the back end of the house is actually closer. And we had asked before, and the feedback from the Planning Commission was try to center the house, site it more centrally on the lot. And we again politely request that it be centered away from 4146 so that, again, privacy cannot, should not be unreasonably interrupted, and we would ask that that take place. The second thing is around the hammerhead. Very shortly, I think the next public comment will be from the affected parties at 4141 Los Erebus. This is a very commercial looking turnaround, and we're at a very private section of Los Erebus. There is no reason for a hammerhead other than the development of this property. A couple of planning commissions ago, where this topic was brought up, Karen Maggio had requested some type of a fire evacuation or fire safety solution that all people of the Los Erebus can agree to, as opposed to this being a forced march. And this hammerhead is going to be at the intersection of my driveway. It is a permanent fixture. It is commercial. It is not in line with the neighborhood. And I think there are going to be some other comments about this, but what I would ask for the Planning Commission to do is allow the neighbors to have some time to evaluate this, because having a couple days notice is simply insufficient. And we've been at this since March 7th. So politely request that no vote be deferred, any vote be deferred until we can reconcile issues with the neighbors, and especially in regards to this hammerhead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Are there any questions for the speaker? Yes, seeing none. Thank you. Renata?
Next is Lavelle Llano.
Welcome. Lavelle, can you hear us? I think now you're muted.
Hold on.
We'll
Are you
wait.
there?
Yep. Can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm the neighbor, Philip Simon. And from what I understand, the hammerhead is going to interfere with my driveway, which I'm not going to approve, or neither is my wife, if I understand it correctly. And then I also sent a letter to the Planning Commission, and I didn't see it included in the last report that you published. And I'm curious as to why that didn't happen. Are you there?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was just waiting for you to finish and then we can, we'll respond. Are you done?
Okay. And then also, it appears to me that there's plenty of room for a fire truck to drive up this road, and they have many times in the past. And so this clearance issue, I'm not understanding, or I'm not clear about it, how much it involves. And the other aspect is that if the driveway that's proposed goes in for that house, then there's some major oak trees that border the road that are going to have to be destroyed. And they're probably 150, 200 years old. And I'm certainly not in favor of that, and neither is anybody in the neighborhood. So I guess that's what I'm saying. And I'm concerned for my neighbor as well, because that hammerhead is a big interference with the whole of what is this neighborhood. I don't think it's necessary.
Thank you, Philip.
Yes.
Thank you. There were a couple seconds left on your time. Did you have anything additional? I don't want to cut you off.
I don't think so. I don't think so, no.
Thank you. I think after the public comments, Renata, I'll follow up with a couple of questions for staffs, like, for example, just how the public comment process works, where we're able to read those letters, that sort of thing. But for now, Philip, thank you. Are there any questions that the commissioners have for Philip?
One thing I'd like to add is that letter wasn't included in the planning report, and I would like that to be dealt with by somebody.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Philip. So after all public comments, we'll circle back with a couple items for staff to chime in on. Thank you. Commissioner Farsan, did you have a question for this commenter?
I was just gonna answer the issue on the letter. I believe we got it after right before the meeting started, just for the record. And just Mr. Simon, if there are comments that come after 12, they don't get included initially in the packet, but this will be part of the public record, and we did get it. I can tell you I got it at 7:01 p.m. and I actually reviewed it while we were sitting here. So we did get it.
Yeah, Commissioner Farzan, thanks. I was gonna basically say the same thing, but let staff respond. So, but thank you. Are there any questions for the speaker?
I have one question. It may be more of a comment, but Mr. Simon, have you looked at the new plans where the hammerhead isn't going to be on your property? Actually, I was the one who brought up that issue last time about going onto somebody else's private property, but now it's been, I don't see him on, so there's probably no sense in me asking that question, but I'll leave it then.
Okay.
You are still there. I'm sorry.
It's just a different name.
Sorry,
Yeah,
yeah, Mr. Simon, did you see the new plans where the hammerhead is entirely on the applicant's property?
I did not see that plan.
Okay, so
If
just
it
for the
is, then-
record, yeah, it is
Okay.
now.
And how about with my neighbor's property, the Haydenfelds, 4146?
It is as we sit here today, it is entirely on the applicant's property. It is an issue that many of us brought up last time around.
Okay. And my other concern would be then how many of the older oak trees would be having to be destroyed.
And so I think this is a perfect opportunity where the applicant will be able to respond in the rebuttal portion. So I know the applicant's team is also taking notes
Sure.
for things, and I'm sure Donna and Jill will be able to address the arborist report. So
Thank you.
thank you. Renata, any other hands?
If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please raise your hand. So Matt Jarvis will be promoted to speak.
Hi there. Thank you.
Welcome.
Mine was concerned just around the hammerhead. I'm at 4150 at the end, and I just would like some more time to review the adjustments to the hammerhead and verify exactly if it actually doesn't go on Phil's property, but also just if it really does take into account what the fire department needs. As well as I agree with Phil, I'd like to understand just the impact it has to those very large oaks there, because based on how it's kind of penciled out with sticks now, it looks like they're all going to be demolished basically. So would like to understand more, maybe a little more time to review the impact of the hammerhead with the surrounding neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Okay. Thank you, Matt. Renata?
Yes, Christian Mars will be promoted to speak. Christian, you should have been prompted to join as a panelist with a pop-up window. You'll need to, there you go. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome. Are you able to hear us? We do see you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right,
Welcome.
sorry. I just want
Okay.
to clarify the confusion which is occurring as it relates to the hammerhead. The fire engine will come down Los Erebus and it will take a right into the hammerhead of the Delamar property. At that point, that fire engine will have to reverse, and it's going to reverse on the property of Phil Simons. So in order for that fire engine to pull back out again, we understand what the fire engine is doing. They're getting a whole bunch of fire engines in there and they're lining them up along Los Arabes for egress. So to say that Phil Simon's property is not impacted by this hammerhead is incorrect. It's false.
Thank you. You do have a little over 2 minutes left. Was
Yeah,
there
no,
anything
that's all I
additional?
want to add to it. I'm very glad that the applicant has turned that property obviously parallel to Los Arabes Drive. I wish they'd moved it a little further away from the neighbor who's seriously affected by this, but I understand there are all kinds of other issues here. I would want to make sure that Joshua has checked the 3-story aspect of the 3-level property, that it's actually a 2.5 now. So I rely upon planning to have done that exercise. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Okay. Thank you. Renata?
If you would like to comment on this item, please use the raise your hand function. There are no other hands raised.
Okay, thank you. I would like to ask a question of staff before we move to the applicant's rebuttal. So there's actually 2 things. If staff can just clarify the process for receiving comments, after, I know Commissioner Farsan provided a helpful summary. If staff could clarify how that process works. And then also if staff can clarify the process for the record of fire's review of a design. So for example, fire's review of this hammerhead. We did hear a couple comments suggesting that maybe some community members would like an opportunity to review fire's review. And so if we could just hear an explanation of how that works, and then we can move to the applicant's rebuttal.
Certainly, I'd be happy to elaborate on that, on those 2 items, Chair. So the general way that public comments are received, we receive them throughout the entire life of the application, obviously. But for the publication of the staff report, there's a set timeline when that needs to be published. So for that, we compile all those comments and include them as an attachment in the staff report. And there's a section generally where we discuss public comments. After the report is published, up until 12 p.m. of the hearing day, the comments received are compiled and uploaded to the city website, generally as an item below the project plans if you're looking in the agenda view. Those comments are also forwarded to the commissioners. Any comments received after 12 p.m. on the hearing day are compiled and forwarded to the commissioners as well. So just for clarification, in my presentation for my public comment slide, I said we received 5 comments. 3 of those were received before the staff report was published. 1 of them was received after the publication before 12 p.m. today. And then the other one, which was Mr. Simon's comment, was received after 12 p.m. So this evening, I forwarded, to cover the bases, I forwarded the comments received after the staff report was published and the comments received after 12 p.m. today. I apologize for sending them later than I intended. I had a dentist appointment earlier, which had some impact there, but that is the general process for handling public comments, presenting public comments as part of the record for discretionary applications reviewed at Planning Commission, Design Review Commission, and for general planning items that do go to City Council. And Renata can definitely elaborate on anything if I've missed a point or if there's further clarification needed. The second comment is about, or clarification is about the fire district's review of projects, correct? All right, so generally during the initial review, during the completeness review, or immediately after the completeness review is finished, so the application is deemed complete, staff will forward the project plans to multiple agencies as part of a referral process. And one of those agencies is the Fire Protection District. We will receive generally an email back from whether it's a fire marshal, whether it's an assistant chief or another plan reviewer at the Fire Protection District with their comments, and we will incorporate that in. Generally, we only do it once, but if there are significant changes to the project, we may forward it for referral again. In this project, the applicant team has been working with the Fire Protection District to have them evaluate based on fire code, ingress, egress requirements, evaluate the proposed infrastructure improvements for the property, like the driveway, the hammerhead, etc. So before I could refer the plans, Assistant Chief Bachman reached out to me directly, indicating his support. And that email I have included as an attachment for the staff report. That had been an item that the commission wanted addressed and finalized before it came back to hearing. So in the period of review of the fire district reviewing it and the revisions being made, that's when I had heard that Assistant Chief Bachman was able to, in his capacity of reviewing the plans relative to fire code and other components, was able to sign off on it.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Appreciate it. With that, I'd like to please welcome the applicant's team back for anything additional or rebuttal. You have 5 minutes in response to public comment or anything additional.
So let's just go back to the elevations here. So if we are looking, I'll just address the privacy concern. Oh, can we share? Am I not sharing my screen? Let's see. Aha, there we go. Okay, so this is the side that faces 4146. As you can see, we've adjusted the window in the master bedroom to be a very high window that you can see the sky, but nothing else. These windows here are in the staircase going up from the garage up to the middle level, and we've removed the window from the garage. So there are and these windows are clear story windows that are, that can be seen sky and view from a catwalk that's kind of interior on the upper level. So that's how we've addressed the privacy concerns by rotating when we rotated the house. Let's go to just to kind of reiterate, the hammerhead is completely 100%. All construction will be on Todd Delamar's property. The kind of the thick dashed line here indicates the 40-foot right-of-way, which you can see right here in very faint gray lines. And as you can see, yes, the fire engine will have to back up onto the Los Erebus Drive, but it is well within the 40-foot right-of-way, which other vehicles use as well. UPS, FedEx, everybody kind of turns around. That's the way that you need to turn around. And that is how the fire trucks will be turning around. But everything is within the 40-foot vehicle right-of-way, and that is what the fire department reviewed with their legal department. And then we do have a tree map here that was included in the set to show that everything marked in purple is what we will be needing, the trees that we'll be needing to remove due to construction. Red are arborist recommended removals, and black indicate the trees that will remain. By rotating and moving the house, we are far away from the 2 large oak trees. If you can see from this graphic, if we were to move and try to center this house, these 2 trees, we would definitely lose them. So we are trying to site the house, place it where also Todd Delamere has a view of Mount Diablo, and save as many trees as we possibly can while reducing the impervious surface and just, kind of making it placed on the site where it makes sense as far as construction is concerned as well. Jill, did you have anything to add? She's still on. I think we dropped her. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything additional from planning commissioners? Excuse me, for the applicants team before we bring it internally for discussion? Joshua, please.
I just did want to note in the draft conditions of approval, there are two project-specific conditions. One of them just concerns story poles, which is a general phase 1 condition of approval, that the story poles need to be erected for the phase 2 component, and they should be updated per any revisions made during the discretionary hearing process of phase 1. And I also included a condition for the property owner and applicant team to update all of the relevant plan sheets to explicitly label that right of way and the property lines to properly delineate where the development is happening, and to emphasize that the private property relative to public property relative to adjacent properties. I just wanted to make that note before commissioners go into a discussion.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'll bring it back to the commission for discussion. Thank you. So just a reminder before we get started tonight, we're looking at the application from a siding and massing perspective for a phase 1 hillside development permit. I see 2 hands up. Commissioner Mason was first, and then Commissioner Heising, please.
Okay, thank you. I've been going through this whole thing in my head, and I do not believe that I have a conflict under the intent of the law, but I'm not sure if I don't under the letter of the law. It is one of my wife's subordinate attorneys that gave the opinion. This is contested. If it ends up in trial, their office and consequently my wife would be dragged in and since the penalties for are personal rather than spread out, absent clear instructions or clear clearance from staff, I would probably have to abstain and not give my opinion. But then that leaves us with only 3 voting members, and I don't know if we can hold a vote. So I will defer to staff, and I would just hope that it would be for something that goes on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Renata.
Sure, happy to respond, Chair. So I did confirm that this is not a conflict, as there is not a financial interest in you. You don't own a property in that vicinity, neither you nor your wife do. So that is where the conflict would come into play. So in this case, you are okay to participate and vote.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. Commissioner Heising, your hand was up. Did you still want to
Yeah,
say
I
anything?
still have comments if we're gonna take action on this item. If we're not gonna take action, I pulled my hand down so that I could wait for another day to make my comments. But it sounds
Okay.
like we're moving forward, right?
Yeah, just really quick, I will just ask Commissioner Farsan, was there anything additional you had on Commissioner Mason's comment, or yours is project comments?
Well, I could comment, but I don't want to because I'm not the attorney for the city, but I've got my own views. I'll leave it at that. I'm ready to comment if we're moving forward.
Yeah, so it sounds like we are moving forward, and I appreciate that Renata followed up to get the answer. And so we do have 4 voting members present tonight, 4 commissioners. And so with that, Commissioner Heising, please invite you to share your comments. Then we'll move to you, Commissioner Parson.
Okay, thank you. So I think I mentioned earlier in the beginning of this item that I appreciated the rotation of the house as well as the shifting of the house. And thirdly, the bunkering it down and dropping the elevation. So all those things add to my my thoughts that this siting and massing, I can make the findings. Regarding the turnaround, I just want to thank Donna for her comments, and also the comment about the attorneys reviewing the privacy or issues relative to the turnaround. It appears to me that a vehicle could turn into the turnaround area and then back onto the street. So I'm assuming that Human Company, the engineer who stamped these plans, ran a truck template on this and proved that, and that's how the fire district's attorneys could make that recommendation. Now, regarding the design of the turnaround itself, I think this first speaker talked about softening the look of it, making comments on the design of the turnaround. From my understanding in my day job, I'm a civil engineer, and I believe these turnarounds are generated based on standard plans. There's a standard template for turnarounds, and knowing that the assistant or deputy fire chief approved this turnaround, I'm confident in the layout and design of the turnaround. And I don't think we customize turnarounds all around the city, unless Joshua, you can correct me, but I think we just use these standard turnarounds. I've seen these designs in other projects we've worked on. So I'm comfortable with the turnaround design. And those are all the comments I have at this time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Parson.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just say quickly, I agree with basically what Commissioner Heising said. The applicant, this is our third meeting. They've made changes since the first meeting that we suggested they look into. They centered it more, they reoriented it, they lowered it. And my biggest issue on top of it was a hammerhead. And actually, I was the one who brought up that they needed to confirm that it wasn't going to be built on somebody else's private property, ergo the Simons, before we could even move on. And they've done that and confirmed that with the fire department and their council. So that covers all the boxes I need to check to be able to make the findings here. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mason, did you have anything?
Yes, thank you. I guess I'm going to be the outlier here. This has been before. I have trouble with the fact that the neighbors only had 2 days worth to review the hammerhead. It's been contentious since the beginning. We've had it since before us since May 17th. It's been an issue at every meeting. I do not think that their request to get more than a couple days worth of notice to review it is unreasonable, especially since we're having a meeting where we are short-staffed. I think the changes to the house are decent and proper, and my only issue is remainings with the hammerhead, and I think that they should have be given the time and the opportunity to review it a little bit more thoroughly. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mason. I do just want to ask staff to please confirm, according to my emails that I received from the city regarding Planning Commission for the e-notices, notice was sent out on Wednesday, the 27th, which would be 6 days for review. Can you please confirm what day the staff report was sent out to the public? Was it Sunday, right? Which would be 2 days yesterday and today, or was it last week?
Generally, staff reports are made public 72 hours before the hearing. So quick mental math, that would have been Saturday, I believe.
So the agenda was just sent out on last Wednesday?
According to my records, the e-notification went out on Wednesday, the July 27th at 4 p.m.
Okay, that's what I'm
or
told.
13.
Okay, thank you. I just appreciate that clarification because we have heard public comment, and so I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So, sorry, Commissioner Mason, did you have anything additional?
Nothing.
Okay. I myself, I do hear what commissioners are saying, and I do appreciate the public comments that we have received on all 3 meetings up until tonight, including tonight's. What I'm focusing on is the fact that this is a phase 1 siding and massing. And I do feel between the April and the May hearings, maybe there weren't as many Planning Commission comments that were addressed between April and May. But I do really feel that the applicant's team made a point of addressing Planning Commission and the public's comments that were received in the May hearing between May and then now tonight, August 1st. So in addition to that, I appreciate the rotation, which was a public comment. I appreciate the review by the fire district of the Hammerhead, the fact that the Hammerhead now is 100% on the applicant's property. And I also appreciate the detail response regarding the arborist report. So personally, I can make the findings. And I will open it up if there's anything else commissioners have. If not, I will be happy if someone would like to make a motion. Commissioner Heising?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I move we approve Planning Commission Resolution 2022-12, finding the project exempt from CEQA and approving the project subject to conditions.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Heising for approval, second by Commissioner Farson, and we will move to a roll call vote. Commissioner Farson?
Aye.
Commissioner Heising?
Aye.
Commissioner Mason?
Nay.
And Chair Radnich, aye. So the item does pass 3-1 for the phase 1 hillside development and being exempt from CEQA. And so Renata, is there an opportunity for an appeal, or does this move to the phase 2 development process?
So I believe this application is still subject to a 14-day appeal period.
Okay,
And the applicant could not proceed with phase 2 until that time were to pass.
okay, thank you for clarifying. Okay. We can move to item 6B, City of Lafayette 6-cycle housing element final EIR. Oh, sorry, Joshua, was there something? Or were you
No,
just?
I
saying
was
goodbye?
waving by. Thank
Good
you for
night.
your time tonight, commissioners. Have a good night.
Good night. So this is the recommendation from staff, adopt the resolution recommending certification of the 6-cycle housing element to City Council. So I will turn it over to Renata, please. Oh, hi, welcome Diana, Luke, and Helen.
Good evening, commissioners and members of the public. Tonight, we will be discussing the final environmental impact report, or final EIR, for the housing element update. With us tonight are a number of our consultants who have worked on this document, including Luke Evans of ESA, Ellen Poling of Fair and Peers, and Diana Elrod, the city's housing consultant. So we will do a brief summary of the environmental review requirements, an overview of the contents of the final EIR and a summary of the certification process. Again, as the chair mentioned, the recommendation for this evening is to adopt a resolution recommending certification of the EIR to the City Council. So environmental review for this housing element is required under the California Environmental Quality Act. This is a detailed analysis that is captured within the Environmental Impact Report, or EIR. This document discusses all of the potential environmental impacts of the programs and policies included within the housing element. So this is not an analysis of a specific project and its impacts, but rather what the maximum potential outcomes of this plan is. And then the plan must work to have fewer or as many or fewer impacts as analyzed in this document. So a key part of this environmental analysis is identification of alternatives. So these are not necessarily each kind of plans that will happen in the future, but we must assess the total landscape of the options in front of us to inform an environmentally responsible and legally compliant and community-driven housing element. So last summer, there was a notice of preparation advertised to the public, so that detailed kind of the scope of the housing element as well as the environmental review for the housing element, and then a draft environmental impact report with all of the analysis on things like wildfire and seismic hazards and so on, was circulated for 60 days in the spring. So the legally required circulation period is 30 days, but the city heard several requests for more time for community input. So we held 2 hearings in that time and extended the review period and to receive more community comments. So within this document, there's an introduction section that kind of summarizes again that project scope and how the public was involved in the review process. The city received, I believe, approximately 25 or 30 comments in total, including some from agencies like EdMUD and the school district. And so responses to individual comments are provided in this document, as well as master responses to comments that had similar themes. There's also a list of revisions that were made between the release of the draft environmental impact report and this final EIR, as well as the mitigation measures that are intended to limit or reduce the environmental impacts evaluated under CEQA. Finally, there are appendices attached to the document, including an evacuation analysis that is required under state law, which was prepared by Fair and Peers. So certification of this, the final environmental impact report is required prior to some adoption and submission of the final housing element. So at the end of June, the city submitted its initial draft of the updated housing element to the state. We are waiting for comments back. Having a certified environmental impact report is not required as part of that initial submission, but it is required as a part of our final one. And because the housing element EIR encapsulated potential for development on the BART parking lots, it's also will be standing in as the environmental analysis for the rezoning and development standards on the BART site. So certification of this document, we will bring it back for that, this document back for that purpose. But we will need to have this certified by both Planning Commission and City Council prior to adoption of the housing element, which we anticipate will be at the end of the year. So what does certification mean? Effectively, it means that we must find this environmental analysis and public engagement to be satisfactory pursuant to CEQA, or the California Environmental Quality Act. So again, the recommendation tonight is to adopt the resolution 2022 5-10, recommending the City Council certify the final EIR for the housing element update. We have our suite of consultants available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Parson?
I don't have a question, just I want to hopefully have the staff reiterate something based on a lot of the comment letters we got, which were ergo, please take this out as an alternative site. And your summary document just mentions that they're included and they need to be included, et cetera, and they don't get yanked out of the EIR. Can you just address that really quickly? Because many of the comment letters were on that issue. Thank you.
Luke, I'm going to look to you, but I'm happy to follow up if need be.
I assume that what the commissioner is referring to is what was called the transit priority alternative that was analyzed in the EIR. Is that accurate? Just want to make sure
It's not just that. It's also like the folks who are saying that they didn't want Happy Valley, the Glen, all those neighborhoods to be included.
Yeah, that was a big part of the transit priority alternative, TPA alternative. Would draw in some of those areas. And of course, we did see a lot of feedback from folks that did not want those areas included. So maybe the best thing I can do is just explain why we included that alternative. CEQA requires us to look at alternatives that would lessen identified significant effects. And for this project in particular, we had a number of significant effects, but one that was that stood out was the project's impact on vehicle miles traveled, which is the new transportation metric used in CEQA for determining impacts. And the EIR, very conservatively, I'd say, found that the impact would be significant and unavoidable for some projects in some areas, maybe. And we couched that carefully. We did not say it would definitely be significant and unavoidable, because we felt that implementing transportation demand management practices and some of the other strategies that developments can use to lessen VMT could be effective. But what we did eventually land on was that we couldn't guarantee that they would be fully effective and completely eliminate the significant effect. So we conservatively, kind of to be on the safe side, found that it would be significant and unavoidable. So we have this significant and unavoidable effect out there. What are some alternatives we could utilize to lessen that and bring it down? One of those was this TPA alternative. Transit priority areas are generally defined as areas within half a mile of a high quality transit facility. In this case, of course, that facility is the BART station. So if you look at, you can't really draw a half-mile circle around the BART station, because some people live on this side of the freeway and they couldn't just get straight to the BART station. They might have to go this way and that way and this way, and it would be more than half a mile. So we structured a transit priority alternative that essentially created an area where anybody within that area would be within half a mile of walking distance from the BART station. And by default, that would mean that they're, as recognized in case law and various other things, by default, those folks would have VMT that would be less than the regional average, and therefore the impact would go away. So that's really the only reason we included the alternative. We just wanted to put something out there for people to consider that would lessen this effect. It is an exercise of CEQA to present alternatives that can do that, and that was the purpose of that alternative.
I also want to add one other thing, that the alternative included sites that were along Deer Hill Road and above the BART station, et cetera. Those are no longer now included in the inventory. So the idea that somehow we're going to continue to include those, the city council has already opined that they do not want to include those sites. So the issue about including those sites is no longer in the housing element. The EIR included them as part of the analysis, but in terms of the actual inclusion in the inventory, they're no longer included.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff before we open up for public comment? Okay. Renata?
If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, maybe we will just give it 10 seconds just in case. Any hands raised?
No hands raised.
Okay. Typically we'd have rebuttal, but there's no applicant, this city item. So with that, we will please close the public comment period and bring it to the commission for discussion. Any commissioners here to start? Commissioner Heising, thank you.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to discuss. I don't have any questions on the document, just some comments. I appreciate the extended review period for the public. I know that's not normal, but it was good for the public and anyone reviewing this document to have the time afforded to them. It was a luxury. I want to just state for the record that the city went above and beyond what was required by the law. So I just wanted to make that point. And I also want to make the point that, an untold number of hours has gone into this effort, both in the form of public outreach, town hall meetings, charrettes, consultant time, hearings, meetings, both by this body, Gpac, as well as the council, many consultant hours and staff hours. And I just want to state that I appreciate all that. I know is a huge effort to update this housing element, especially with all the ABAG requirements with the RENA numbers and all the multiple iterations we had to go through in addressing concerns with RENA. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Sarah. She started this process and moved on to another job, but I think it's worth mentioning her and calling her out by name, Sarah Allen. And not taking anything from you, Renata. I mean, you've been all along with this, but just wanted to give Sarah some props. So those are my comments for now, and I'll wait and let other commissioners make comments or have questions. And thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Heising. Commissioner Farson?
I honestly don't have much to add. I'll say ditto like I said last time. And also, I think Commissioner Heising got to this, but I also want to say thanks to the many members of the community who chimed in at meetings and sent in comments. This isn't something that people are giddy about reading. No offense to people who are in this field, reading these reports and coming back with issues that they have. It takes a lot of effort, and I appreciate the people who were involved in our multiple meetings on this. And again, very comprehensive responses to the questions and comments that were out there. And that's all I have. I have no questions. Thank you, everyone.
Commissioner Mason, did you have anything additional? No. Yeah, I'll just echo what the other commissioners have said. A lot of hours have gone into this. I wish there was a little tally keeping track. And I think ESA, their consultants, Fair and Peers, Diana, everyone's done an excellent job, staff, and it's a really well-written EIR and final EIR. So thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion? Are you raising your hand or pointing to Commissioner Heising there?
I was pointing. He likes to do it, but I'll do it if he wants me to.
I'll do it.
All right, go for it.
I move that we adopt resolution 2022-10 recommending certification of the 6th cycle housing element update final EIR to the city council.
Second.
Okay, well, can I just ask a question? So for the wording, it's actually, we're recommending the overall housing element EIR to city council, right? Not just the final EIR. Is that specifications we need to make? Sorry, Commissioner Heising, would you mind just reading your statement?
Sure. I just read it straight from the staff report.
Oh, sorry, it's different in the agenda. Sorry.
Oh. Is
I'll
one.
have to ESA is their preferred.
I'm not able to answer that question. I'm not sure what the precise wording would be, if final is really necessary or if just EIR is
I
sufficient.
think EIR would suffice.
Yeah.
The word
Yeah.
final is in the staff report with what I said, I believe.
Would you like to amend your motion to?
Oh, sorry,
No.
I'm just reading from the agenda. So, sorry, Commissioner Heising. Just-
Yeah, I believe the word final is in both the agenda as well as the staff report recommendation I read off. So is that your question, that the word final was in the recommendation?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, it was in what I read. So I think we're good.
oh, sorry, I was saying it didn't necessarily need to be, and that the EIR, because it's actually the draft EIR is what everyone looks at. I guess my recommended amendment would be to adopt PC resolution 2022-10, recommending certification of the 6th cycle housing element EIR to the city council.
That sounds great to me. So I approve that friendly amendment.
Thank you.
I will second the amended resolution.
Thank you. Might be a technicality that doesn't matter, but
I don't know.
let's go with the roll call vote. Commissioner Farsan,
Aye.
Commissioner Heising,
Aye.
Commissioner Mason.
Aye.
and Chair-
Sorry.
Just in case we didn't hear. And I'm Commissioner Radnich, aye. So the item passes and will be recommended to City Council. So thank you, staff, for this, and Luke, Diana, and Ellen. Thank you for being here tonight. And now we can move to item 7, new public hearings. There's none. Item 8, other business. ARC volunteer needed for August 12th.
Can I put myself down as volunteering right now, but I may have to change that, but right now put me down as the volunteer for that.
Perfect. It's etched in stone and you cannot change your mind.
I'll talk to my
Perfect.
counsel. Well, he or she will get back to you.
Great, thank you for volunteering. Item 9, commissioners' reports. Are there any? We did have a Gpac meeting. Gpac is starting, well, I shouldn't say starting up again. There was not a meeting in June. There was a meeting in July. The meetings are currently on the 3rd Tuesday of the month. There was discussion about, as we're moving through the land use element and the safety element, potentially to increasing those number of meetings, maybe to bi-weekly or like twice a month. We're still figuring that out, but the next focus is the land use element and the safety element. And then item 10, planning director's report. I know Greg is actually out for 2 weeks. Renata, welcome back from your
Thank you.
hopefully restful time away. Was there anything for item 10?
I think just that we today welcomed a new planning department assistant. So Laura Chamberlain has joined the public works team. So she's still within the Lafayette family, but just in a different building. So Carolyn Frank is our new department assistant. So she and Laura will be working to get her up to speed. And so she'll be starting to reach out with agendas and quorum checks. So please welcome her kindly.
Great, thank you. And then I guess maybe I will just remind, I'm not a planning director, but there is an opening on planning commission. So if anyone is interested in joining the Lafayette Planning Commission, there's information on Love Lafayette. You can also volunteer Renata, you can reach out to the city. And we'd love for you to apply. So with nothing else, oh, sorry, Commissioner Mason.
Yeah, I deferred to Commissioner Farzan's expertise, but I was always told that whole EIR versus final EIR is there's no such thing as a draft. After the final, you irretrievably lose everything that got to there. In case
EIRs are different.
Okay.
100% different, and that's the irony.
Yeah, I was told in case the attorneys come looking, you don't want anything that you don't have to have.
Unless it's an EIR under CEQA.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is your area of expertise. I'm not going to challenge that.
Whereas an ISMND, if you ever see those, there are no final documents. So it's just more
Thank you.
confusion and more acronyms. But yes, I'd say rule of thumb, drafts don't, well, not the drafts count. I think we'll just stop there.
Yeah.
In the EIR world, always read the draft EIR with the final.
Thank you.
Yep. So 8:22.